Howdy, y'all. Welcome to Mr. Murray's very first at-home version of one of my classroom debates. This is our Great American Moments matchup. Based on the voting you guys have already done, we have got things all the way to the quarterfinals, meaning we have 4 matchups to take care of today. What we're going to do is in just a second, I have already randomly selected 2 arguments written by students for each of these great American moments. For each one of the quarterfinal matchups, I'm going to read 2 arguments for each side, so a total of 4 arguments. After you're done watching the video and you've heard your fellow students' arguments about why the Declaration of Independence is great, why the Marshall Plan is great, and so forth, you will be ready to go ahead and cast your votes for the quarterfinals. Tune in tomorrow and you'll see what's advanced to the semifinals. And, well, hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have been able to put this thing to bed. So, this is our current tournament bracket. We will start with the Declaration of Independence versus the 19th Amendment. So, for the Declaration of Independence, my argument is that the Declaration of Independence is what made up the USA, and without it, we would not be what we are today. We would most likely have a king that would rule over us, and we would not be a democracy. For the 19th Amendment, well, I chose this one because women and men should be equals. So I think this is one of the important ones, along with slavery, but let's not dig too far into that one right now. I chose the 19th Amendment. It does do with the right for women to vote, but also that men and women are equals. Thank you. Good day. For the Declaration of Independence, I think that the Declaration of Independence is the best moment on the list because it has a bunch of rights that were wrote to have freedom throughout the world to everyone. And for the 19th Amendment, the 19th Amendment is frequently referred to as Women's Right to Vote Amendment. Both men and women should have the right to vote. Even though women may have different opinions, it would be great to have all opinions considered when choosing our leaders. This amendment would be a big change to the world and a good change for all of America. If all men are created equal, it makes no sense to exclude women. Over time, women have left their housekeeping role and ventured into the working world and earning a permanent place of acceptance of what was once a man's world. Obstacles will become larger, but as a woman, I will overcome them. That's our first matchup. Next matchup, the end of slavery versus a human sets foot on another world. For slavery, end of slavery, I should say, I think the best moment on the list is the end of slavery. The reason I picked that one is because we could still be doing it, owning our kind to work, torturing them with little food and water. Think of the life you have now. It's great, isn't it? Think back into the 1860s. It took almost 2 years for that decision to be made. Now, this is my opinion, and you can have yours, but thank you for taking the time to read this. For Men on the Moon, I think a man walking on the moon is the best one because the United States are the only people that have walked on the moon. And I think that is cool because we have been the only people that have left the world, and they did it with not the best technology, which was probably really hard to do. I think it's awesome that someone has experienced life outside of the world. The end of slavery. I think that the end of slavery was the best moment in America because it stopped slavery. I know that it did not stop people from being racist or anything like that, but it did stop people from making other people their slaves. And Men on the Moon. The reason why I think that this is the best is because space is cool, and the moon we see in the sky is so far away in the entire Milky Way with no oxygen, and it took a long time to land on the moon that has no life substance. Okay, third matchup, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights versus the Age of Invention. For the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, The Bill of Rights was so amazing. It gave so many people so many new rights that people fought for and died for that a lot of other countries don't have. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, no slavery. Black people and women could vote, no housing soldiers, keeping private property, and so many more rights that we got that made America a better place. Now, I'll point out that one included a few things that weren't in the Bill of Rights, like no slavery and women could vote. Those were both things that were added later, and I didn't include in this one, but the rest of that was really good. For the Age of Invention. Without the Age of Inventions, you would not even be sitting here. The Age of Inventions is when many of the modern things we use today were created by the bright people of the century. You would not be here because to build the building you are inside, they needed high powered drills, nail guns, and probably a bulldozer. Many of these things, like power from the Tesla coil or from the company that made it, video cameras for ads. For the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the United States of America. It describes the rights and responsibilities of the states and the federal government. The Constitution affirms that the government of the United States exists to serve its citizens. And the Age of Invention. I think the Age of Invention is the best because without all of those inventions, the world wouldn't be the same. And these inventions have changed the world completely. Final matchup. But first, see that word freedom? That is your secret word for the day. So remember, freedom, write it down, take a picture, whatever. That's what you're going to need to use to actually complete today's assignment. Here's our last matchup: the Marshall Plan versus the Civil Rights Act of 1964. For the Marshall Plan, I picked the Marshall Plan. The reason I think it is more important than the other options is it shows how great America can really be, and other countries at the time were probably curious why we were helping them, but they just kept helping others. For the Civil Rights Act. Okay, this is why I think the Civil Rights Act is the best out of the moments on the list. First of all, it was what ended segregation in all the public places. The next thing is it was a step forward for women to be treated equal to men. Next, it prohibited employment discriminations, no matter race, gender, or nationality. And that is just a couple reasons why I think the Civil Rights Act is so important. The Marshall Plan showed why we are a kind and strong country. We showed that we will give and care for others. I love how we gave to people who were enemies and gave to other countries so their history could live on. The pilots who flew the planes flew back and forth just so they could survive. And the fact that we gave instead of took is just an amazing American moment. And finally, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which ended segregation in public places and banned employment discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, is considered one of the crowning legislative achievements of the civil rights movement. So there you go. You have now heard the arguments made by some of your fellow classmates. Keep these in mind, think about what you believe, and log on to your assignment for today, which is going to start with you voting on each of these four matchups. When you're done with that voting, then you'll get a chance to create an argument again, just like you did yesterday. Please do not pick the same thing that you've already typed up an argument for. Please pick something new. Other than that, I think we're done. I hope you enjoyed this. And as always, you have my best wishes to stay safe and stay healthy.